Hey everyone, welcome to IGN's review discussion for The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. I'm Marty Sleva. I reviewed the game for IGN. I'm joined by Sam Claiborne.
I'm wearing a mask.
He's wearing a Majora mask. And Brian Altano.
I'm wearing a mask of sadness.
I gave the game an 8.7. I thought it was absolutely great. And for a quick snippet of my review, here's my verdict. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D proves that interesting game design and strong world building never get old. Even 15 years later, it still delivers charming characters, tense resource management, and a world rife with personality. Despite some cumbersome menus and a single drag of a dungeon, Majora's Mask is a great adventure that stands the test of time. For more on The Legend of Zelda, you're already in the right place, IGN.com. So one of the biggest things in any Zelda game, obviously, are the dungeons and the bosses. But Majora's Mask handles them a little bit differently, and some people feel a little bit weird about that. There's only 4 dungeons, 4 major dungeons, and in my opinion, one of them is garbage, and one of them is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
The garbage one being the Great Bay Temple, which I think is even worse than the Ocarina of Time's Water Temple, and the great one being Stone Tower, which uses all 3 masks in unison to have some crazy puzzles. What do you guys think about the 4-dungeon setup?
Well, yeah, I mean, just to your point, the third one is really, really irritating because you have to go, you can only access 50% of it based on a switch system in the very front of it. So if you miss something or have to go back, you have to go all the way back to the beginning and change a bunch of stuff and then go back into the thing. And it's really confusing. You can only go one way through a bunch of areas.
Yeah.
It's just all wrong. Plus, it's like a weird future theme in there. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I found that dungeon borderline nauseating. Yeah. Like it was actually, it was just a slog to get through a stage that was predominantly underwater. You almost entirely couldn't play as Link. You had to play as Zora. And
the map doesn't help.
I didn't feel like the swimming really worked. It wasn't something. They had 15 years to improve that. I don't think they did. And yeah, the map was very cumbersome. And one of my problems with it was there's all these sort of vacuum tunnels that pull you in, and they're one way, and they're guarded by enemies that you have to kill each time, and to do that you have to use the Zora's projectile, which takes a good 10 seconds to throw in and come back, and it's kind of a pain. But what I did sort of, and maybe this is a pressure I put on myself, but I found myself in playing the dungeons, the way I would do things were I would spend 3 full days unlocking the song, which is basically your key to get into the dungeon and begin with.
Yeah, each of the 4 areas, you have to find the song that unlocks them.
And it's work to do that. You know, it's a lot. I mean, fun work, but it's a lot. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of activities, a lot of fetch quests, a lot of finding things and interacting with people and doing things like that. And you get the song, and that unlocks the door, and then you warp back to the first day, and you slow down time, and now you are ready to attack that dungeon. And I would go into that dungeon, and I would say, this is what I have.
You slow down time.
Yeah, slow down time and go back. I would go to that dungeon and go, okay, here's what I have. I'm bringing some money with me. I'm bringing some items and rupees and other, the
bombs and stuff,
weapons, whatever I got. And then I realized very quickly, I was like, oh, there's a sub-quest in each of these dungeons, and that's to collect 15 fairies. Yeah. So you're tasked
I think they're the most well-hidden collectibles in any Zelda game.
Oh, yeah.
They're super hard to find.
They're very smart.
I always come up with 13. That's too short. 2 missing. I just had to go.
And so you get this weird. That's when I didn't feel a lot of the tension, but until then, that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I'd be going through a dungeon or a temple, and I'd be trying to find all 15 of them, and then unlock every chest and get through every room. And then I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, I've got 6 hours left. Before this town is nuked.
And after you beat the first boss, you're like, all these bosses are hard. They take a long time.
The bosses are tough.
The bosses are hard. They take a long time. So I found myself finding all 15 fairies, beating the boss, and then with 20 minutes left before the apocalypse, finding the Great Fairy and dumping those fairies off, and then she's like, here's your spin attack, cool. I'm like, cool, thanks a lot. And I run out and I get the hell out of there as fast as possible.
Honestly, it feels really good doing that. It feels like having that Saved by the Bell just right, a hair's breadth, and being able to go back. And again, you're like, oh man, 10 minutes later, all you guys got hit by a moon.
And Marty had that a lot.
But I got my spin attack.
He didn't know how to slow down time for the first couple of dungeons.
Really? This is exactly the same thing like Captain Totoro. I didn't know how to run.
To your credit, I mean, I do feel like there's a lot of things in this game that are deliberately obtuse, and I think that finding them is
that thing is well hidden.
And I mean, even some of the bosses, and I don't want to spoil things too much, but it took me a minute to figure out how to kill that fish boss.
Yes, and because they changed the bosses. So
they changed things.
Even if everybody out there listening right now is like, oh, that one's easy, you just do this and this. You don't. They changed it in this
Yeah.
game.
Or even
and so
the-
I was doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Just because that's what I remembered how to do.
The first boss, who's that witch doctor voodoo psycho guy,
Makes that weird
who's
noise.
just like, la, 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 he's just yelling at
Yeah.
you the entire time. And he repeats it over and over and over. It felt like a very, I mean, that is something we let games get away with back in the day all the time. And they don't do that anymore.
yeah.
But that stayed, strangely. But I found it fun to get through that stage. I thought it was like, the temples there are way, way less of them, which is disappointing, obviously. There's only 4, and one of them sucks.
Yeah.
But the 3 that are there, I think, are really strong, and they're actually really long, too.
Yeah, I love building
Yeah.
the column in the snow
Stone-
one.
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah,
one's so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then-
yeah.
We won't spoil what happens in the stone one, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the music is really good.
It's
in it.
really good in this game.
And you know what makes a big difference? For that temple, that's significant because I think the music in this game is really, really poor compared to Ocarina of Time.
Oh,
I think
really?
Ocarina of
Really?
Time has the best soundtrack out of any game from that generation.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And Koji Kondo partially worked on this game, but there was a second composer on it. And I forget his name right now, but he, I think, probably did most of the stuff. But even the songs you play, like every song is iconic in Ocarina of Time. From even the 3-note ones like Saria's song and Zelda's Lullaby that have long versions of each song. They're really pretty. The Minuet of Forest and stuff. They're all great. And in this game, it's like they give you like some permutations or just like, just have them hit these 3 notes.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no song to it.
Which is weird because considering how many songs you have in the game and how like musically focused everything
And
sort
how
of
They
is.
kept it
frequently you're
musically
playing them.
focused,
Yeah,
'cause you
yeah.
still have the Ocarina of
So
Time.
I felt the same way about that as I did with the masks, where by the 60th time of playing the song, I was like, maybe just give me a hotkey for this.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that defeats the purpose of me making me feel like I'm actually playing an Ocarina on a video game system. But spoilers, I never felt like that.
But yeah, in the dungeons,
Spoilers, we've never played Ocarina before.
in the dungeon specifically, aside from that one, I think the music is a little irritating, and there's
Yeah.
like bad music in them. And then also, before you transform a world, what the dungeons do is they make the world transformed afterwards. It's like a pretty nice scene after you beat a dungeon. But before that, they play the same song in every key area. That's really irritating, and I just can't take it. So I'm so excited. I've never done the thing where you go through and just clear all the temples. Have you ever done that? So
Oh,
that the
one
whole
day?
world is nice
Oh, man.
and clean.
No.
God, that
and,
seems
pastoral.
super intense.
Yeah, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that.
I want to do that. I don't think there's any achievement from doing that.
No, but it's kind of like a boss rush
achievements,
mode
but
almost.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any. I've done about 60 side quests now,
Yeah.
and I think I have them all done. So I don't think there's anything tied to that.
Yeah.
But that would have been a cool thing to add.
One of the things, going back a little bit, you saying that certain things felt obtuse and like not knowing that you could slow down time. It feels weird to complain about that, considering how much we complain about how like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword start
so
off
hand-holdy.
so hand-holdy.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to fetch goats. Just give me a sword. I want to do something
yeah,
red.
No, I totally agree, but I think there's a middle ground to be found between showing me exactly where something is and designing something that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, that is sort of intuitive enough to figure it out. And this is like this is a really tough discussion to have because it's a sacred cow, right? You're talking about something that was 15 years ago a beloved classic and that people have played top to bottom and left to right and they've understood it and understood the way that it works. So somebody coming in now might be like, that puzzle didn't make any sense.
Well, let me just add that I think that it's the combination of running out of time and difficult puzzles that makes the unique feeling of this game.
Yeah.
That
everything
can
feels
be
tense.
that can be annoying or
Yeah.
unfortunate, but also some people like a lot. So if you give me a lot of fairies to find, they're hard to find, but I got 3 days after school to come home and check that out and figure it out, that's great.
Yeah.
But in this specific instance, I'm just like, I'm running out of time and I can't find these things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start completely over. That makes it not fun when I have to start over.
So that moment sucks, but the moment, like Brian was saying, where you actually do get it right in the nick of time is
great.
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess in terms of the dungeons and sort of the bosses and the quests, there's less than the rest of the games, but I think their quality is just up to snuff. And it's just sort of a balance of whether or not what you're looking for in a Zelda game.
Yeah, and you can just play this game for Clocktown.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many puzzles to solve in Clocktown, and it's a fantastic, moving, real feeling world. Forget
Absolutely.
about the dungeons.
Clocktown, a dungeon in and of itself.
That's right.
So that's what we thought of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Goro.
Oh, that's really nice, Goro.
Thank you, Martin.
Oh, you guys are kind. For everything else, The Legend of Zelda and spooky masks, you're already in the right place. IGN.com.